Okay, so let's start with the method of writing and the rules for Lishma. We have a concept of derech tiva that we have to establish. The word writing, as we know it, can mean a lot of things. Normally, the first thing that comes to mind is writing with a pen or a pencil, but typing could also be writing, and writing with a stencil or stamping or with a typewriter. All those things fit under the category of writing, but they don't fit under the category of derech tiva. Okay? So for the writing to be considered derech tiva, you need a few things. First of all, you have to be writing with your normal writing hand. So if you normally write with your right hand, and this time you're writing with your left hand, it's absolutely writing, but it's not derech tiva, and therefore you puzzle. So you always have to write with the hand that you usually write. Furthermore, writing is defined as creating letters by adding ink horizontally. That means if I add the ink vertically by dripping it or by tapping the commas or the pen on the paper, I'm creating letters, but that's not derech tiva. Derech tiva is that you make a horizontal stroke. So if I add ink with a horizontal stroke, it's derech tiva. If I create a letter by erasing or by wiping away ink, that isn't derech tiva. So if I add ink horizontally with my normal writing hand, that's derech tiva. Okay, so far? Okay. Another requirement, besides being derech tiva, is that whoever is writing has to be able to read. You can't copy the letters just as graphic forms. You must be able to read Hebrew, at least in the level of recognizing the letters, even if he doesn't understand the text. Okay? Because otherwise his drawing is not writing. Furthermore, a person has to pronounce each word before or while writing. Whether it would invalidate the mezuzah or tefillin or whatever if a person does not pronounce the words, there is a machloket in the achlo. So definitely we should strive to do it. And if for any reason the person did not, then we're going to have to ask a shaila and see which achron we can rely on. So always make sure to pronounce the word that you're writing.
Rabbi.
Yes.
So it's, sorry, Paul. It's the word we pronounce, not each individual letter. So we write each letter, then we pronounce the word. Is that correct?
I don't think it matters which order, as long as the pronunciation is close to the writing.
I'm not sure
Okay.
the question. In other words, you don't say the word after you actually wrote it. Right? First you say the whole word, and then you write the letters.
It
No?
might work if you say it immediately after. I don't think anybody deals with that question, but
What,
it might. But
what,
nevertheless,
what,
it's normal and expected to say the word either before or as you write.
But not the letters, just the word.
Yeah, the word.
the
Okay.
reason why I'm asking was because I saw some videos where the sofer would pronounce like Bet, Aleph, or whatever letter, he would pronounce each letter as he was writing it. Then once he's finished the word, then he would say the entire word. I didn't know if that was just a personal practice or if that was halakha.
No, it's definitely not.
So what does it mean, Krei versus Ksiv here? Like, let's say they darshan besukas as opposed to besukos, right? Because it's chaser vav. So you have to actually say besukas as opposed to besukos? Hmm. And even though, like in some things, like sometimes it's chaser vav, but it still is like there's a cholam chaser. So you're saying even so, you should say besukas and uh-huh. Okay. I mean, there's
Okay?
probably there are known instances of Krei and Ksiv, but there's also a lot of places where it isn't explicitly darshaned as Krei and Ksiv, and that's seems very hard to figure out.
Okay. Tefillin and mezuzahs can be written from memory. Sefer Torah, though, even if you do know it Baal Peh, Sefer Torah must be copied from a text. Nevertheless, it wouldn't puzzle if you didn't, unless, of course, you made a mistake. But it has to be copied from an accurate text. Okay. Now, let's talk about the Lishma. Okay? Sefer Torah, Tefillin, or mezuzahs are not kosher unless they are written Lishma. Now, what is the Lishma? It's not enough to have kavana to write. This isn't the same principle as mitzvot. It's called kavana, or like in the context of Shabbos. But over here, you have to intend to fulfill the particular mitzvah that you're striving for in this writing. So if you're writing parshas, you have to say L'Shem Kedushat Tefillin. If you're writing a mezuzah, it has to be L'Shem Kedushat Mezuzah. I doubt, and I don't remember seeing it written, and I don't want to take up time now to look it up. Maybe if you could check this later. I doubt if the same principle of Bichlal Matayim Maneh that we have in Klaf, if that would apply here. In Klaf, we do have a principle. If I do the Ibud, the Shem Sefer Torah, I can write a mezuzah. But if I'm writing a mezuzah and I say the Shem Kedushat Sefer Torah, I doubt that would qualify for a mezuzah. Because in this case, it's almost it's almost exclusive. Can you guys see the difference between the lishma of klaf and the lishma of stam? From the way I explained it, or should I try maybe saying something else? Anybody can answer.
If I understand correctly,
Yeah.
we're saying that we have to pronounce the blessing for whatever we're going to do. So if we're going to write mezuzot, we have to pronounce the blessing for mezuzot.
It's not a blessing.
And we have
It's the Shem Kedushat mezuzah. I doubt
so we have to
saying the Shem Kedushat Sefer Torah could qualify, even though in the ibud of the klaf it does.
Is there the if I am correct, the higher if you say Sefer Torah, is that the highest blessing? So
Highest
a
command.
lower highest of the blessing. So if by accident you say Sefer Torah and then later you use it for Mizut, though you went to the higher blessing, it should be acceptable to use for Mizut because you did the higher blessing.
Are you talking about the making of the cloth?
Correct.
Okay, so in the making of the cloth, it would be enough. However, we have another issue of ma'alim b'kodesh ve'en moridim. You're not supposed to use something that was designated for a higher purpose for a lesser purpose.
I see. Okay.
Therefore, when we do make the ibud with the Sefer Torah in mind, we have to make it conditional. So we say this cloth is being made for a Sefer Torah, but I apply the condition that I can change it to a tefillin and mezuzah.
I remember that your class last time you were saying about the additional exception clause.
Say that again.
I remember your last class, you were explaining that when cloth was being produced, that it was practice that they added that conditional clause in case it was used for the lower purpose of mezuzot.
Right, right. Okay.
I'm good.
You said it's Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzah. So a Megillah was similar to Ma.
It would have to Shem Megillah.
Okay.
Shem Megillah. Now, what if you didn't verbalize the Lishma? What if you only thought? So it is a mechloket whether thinking is valid. Okay? So if you only thought, it would be possible according to the Mishnah Torah. According to other opinions, it might be kosher. But if you didn't verbalize, should ask a shaila and see if a kula can be applied. However, you only have to say it one time for the entire project. So if it's a mezuzah, you say the shemta tushat mezuzah, it's good for those few hours. And if you take a break in the middle and continue another day, it's still okay. Sefer Torah, it's good for the whole Sefer Torah, even though it takes you a year. The only case in which it would not be carried from day to day is that if you made a conscious decision not to continue. And that might happen with a person writing a Sefer Torah, and then in the middle, the circumstances change, and he says, "No, I won't be able to finish this Sefer Torah," and he puts it aside for someone else to finish, and doesn't find someone, and then says, "Okay, you know what? I'll just finish it." He's going to have to say the Shem Kedushat Sefer Torah again. If he doesn't, it'll be possible because since he was nimlach, since he resolved not to continue it, he nullified his original Lishma.
But there's no issue of hefsek like over Shabbos when like you're not like it's a fundamental you're not allowed to write. But
No,
it's still
as long as he had intention to eventually finish it. Okay.
I think this boils down to the intention, verbally as well as consciously thinking, where the opinions always differentiate. It boils down to attention. If the person, as you were saying in your example, he intended to take a break and not to do it anymore, then verbally or consciously thinking about it, you could debate that. but it all goes back to intention. That's my take.
No. To apply the kavana, you have to verbalize it. To nullify it, to be nimlach, it's enough to do it in your mind.
I see. Okay.
So
Islamic Paul.
if you
Thank
said
you.
it, if you decided not verbally not to continue,
Yes.
and then you change your mind and you continue but you didn't say it verbally, we wouldn't say like Tamiman. It's still
No, it would be puzzle.
mm.
Okay. Now, what if a drop of ink falls on the ground? That's definitely not the katiba. But if it's still wet, I can manipulate the drop and say l'shem tushat tefillin or mezuzah, and then it would be kosher. However, if the ink already dried, there's nothing I can do about it. Okay, so you're going to have to scrape it off in order to write there. All right? Okay.
When you scrape it off, like if there's like a little tiny dot left, did that make the whole letter puzzle? Like you have to make sure there's not there's no trace left.
That becomes a little bit complicated. A drop of ink that isn't kosher would puzzle a letter if it interferes with its mukaf kavir. If it's totally covered and surrounded by ink, it would still be kosher. Okay, because we treat that spot of ink as if it was a hole, as if it's nothing. Got it?
Got it.
Okay. So that about wraps up this particular chapter.